Howdy, y'all. It's Cody from the Keepers of Nerddom, and I am joined today by my friend, Will.
Hello.
Side note, Will, before we get started, how tall are you?
6'8".
6 foot?
8.
8. I was going to say, there's got to be more there because I know. Okay, so we actually just got done watching Invincible Season 2, Episode 2, and wanted to share thoughts together with you, also in part because there's a lot here.
It's a lot to unpack. It's a very, very filled episode. A lot of the loose ends that were left from Season 1 are brought up, and I really did appreciate that. But at the same time, it leaves us with even more questions than we had to begin with.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So a really good setup episode for more world building and, exposition for what we're about to get into with this new, I don't know if you touched on it, but the alternate universe arc that we're seeing this season.
We talked about that in that previous episode, so you're right. Good catch. It's interesting because what you just said is completely accurate. This episode is a bit slower.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a lot slower paced than episode 1, but what it makes up for in lack of pace, it gives us in content or story, rather.
World building.
Yeah, right.
What you're saying, 100% agree. That's it. This is a slower episode, but it wasn't boring. It was just, you could tell it was setting up all the layers for what's to come. And I mean, I was losing my mind at the end, and I think you were too.
Yeah, it pieces together a lot of things, but then at the same time, it's also just dropping bombs here and there of things that we're going to keep wondering about and hope to get some, more clarification on, hopefully sooner rather than later. Yeah. But it's very good. Leaves you hooked.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate.
Dang, yes. Obviously, there will be spoilers from here on out. We're going to go into the episode and walk through it. So, 0 to 10, what would you rate this episode, Will?
I'd give it an 8.
Yeah.
It was a really solid episode. It had some things that it honestly could have left out.
Mm-hmm. Like Amber?
Precisely. Sorry. For those of you that don't know, we just have a pretty biased hatred towards Amber as a character. Because, just watch all of Season 1 to figure out why.
Yeah.
And
it's terrible.
Yeah. I'm also starting to really dislike Immortal as a character.
Really?
Honestly,
that's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair. We'll talk about it.
He kind of seemed like he had the moral high ground in Season 1, but then he just got totally wiped by Omni-Man and came back, and now he's just kind of off kilter. Something seems up with him, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but I don't like it.
Well, in the first episode, he was ticked.
Yeah.
But now, he does seem... That's a good observation. He does seem
He's
off.
A lot... more calm now, but it seems like he's just keeping it at bay just to keep the peace.
Yeah.
And not let everything go, completely haywire.
Okay. Man. So I think I'm close to you on the rating. I didn't really give a rating for the first episode, but I mean, it was up there, probably a 9 or a 10 pretty easily. Just some fantastic, interesting dealing with the stuff from previous season. Yeah. I think this one is somewhere in the 7, maybe a high 7 for me. It wasn't bad.
Yeah, no, it definitely wasn't bad, but it could have definitely had some improvement.
Yeah, and I think it's just because seeing what's being built on, it's going to be really exciting.
Oh,
but this is the episode that you just go, it's going to be interesting later.
Right, but right now it's just kind of like, here it is.
Yeah, because I don't think there was ever an episode in Season 1 that had this much, exposition, just talking. And the talking wasn't bad.
Yeah, it was mainly just doing because we followed the Nolan arc, Omni-Man, and it was just Nolan, yes.
Oh, but we did learn Invincible's middle name,
which is
Sebastian.
Sebastian. That's why I almost immediately
and they did say Amber's middle name and Eve's. I forget Eve's, and Amber's I didn't care, so.
I think it was
And did they say
Justine
Williams?
or something.
That sounds...
they said everyone's middle name.
Yeah. I didn't care as much about everybody else.
Definitely will be a trivia question somewhere at some point.
Yeah. Okay. So let's work through the episode. Kind of what we saw here. Beginning, if memory serves, is graduation, and as graduation is happening, we are dealing with Invincible fighting with
Doc Seismic. I think is what his name is.
Doc Seismic, and I thought he had completely died in the last thing, and you had remembered him being
elsewhere. And in the final episode, he was in this magma cave at the center of the earth, and was raising an army of his.
That's what it was. Okay.
Magma Knights is what he describes them in the episode.
Yeah, and he decides that
interesting.
Earth taking granite and other materials out of Earth, except for wood. Wood's okay, apparently.
Yeah, wood's fine because that's it's renewable.
Yeah, it grows out of the ground.
Right.
He's going to send the Washington Monument back down into the Earth. He's just straight crazy, and it's funny. Yeah, and I mean, he destroys the Washington Monument. I love that after Invincible finally stops him, he's like, I could go underneath and push it back up.
Bring it back up. Because in the episode, he claps his seismic rings on his hands and almost sends it all the way into the earth. But, yeah. It's just, no.
And then Invincible flies through the middle of it and punches him.
Right.
And then offers I could just go underneath and lift it up. And Cecil's just
no, you've done enough. Just back away.
I appreciate that. I'm like that.
Right.
That's got to be the worst part about being a superhero is if you are helping with cleanup, but also just the finances of what it costs just to repair.
You're destroying a national treasure just to beat this guy. It's okay. Yeah.
And to be fair, it would have been destroyed if Invincible wasn't there and gone.
Right? Yeah. But then again, it was left in a pretty rough condition. Honestly, I was surprised it was still standing at the end of that.
So it started, the episode started really well. And then Amber shows up talking. And okay, so I know I mentioned this at the very beginning of the episode and then in the middle when we see Amber, it feels like they took every negative aspect of Amber and made it disappear.
Pretty much. Because now they got all their stuff figured out, and Mark even comments on that in this episode that they're in a really good place now.
Yeah.
So
kind of hand waving away.
Yeah, they're kind of just hey, remember this awful character that was totally insufferable throughout all of season 1? Yeah, no more. Everything's fine.
She's just nice with a little bit of sarcasm instead of just a jerk. It's weird because it's not the same character.
Yeah.
And there's been nothing to really happen that should have changed Amber so drastically.
Yeah, because, I mean, even though it's not that really important of a subplot, it still matters to Mark's character development. And to kind of just snatch it out of the way real quick is just kind of why?
Right. Right.
I get that it might make the show a little bit, a bit easier of a pill to swallow, but at the same time, you can't just take a character's attribute out at will and say everything's fine and just cover it up with, we're in a good place in our relationship now. Because no matter if you're in a good relationship, or not, your qualities of your personality are still going to remain. We all have our flaws. You can't just make a flawless character out of nothing.
Dude. That was good. That was exactly it. It hit it all.
Yes, welcome to me and my crazy psychoanalytics.
It's perfect though. You nailed it all on the head. It's not the same character.
It's off-putting. It's very off-putting because it's this is the character that we saw, but it's not.
And she was an absolute jerk. And then they just took the jerk part out of it, and then she's better
totally
now.
Cool, totally fine.
That's not the same person.
Right.
It's just weird.
And it's totally going backwards on our insatiable hatred towards her.
Yeah. And I'm I'm not going to like her now because we've already set up that she's an absolute jerk to Mark.
Right. And he did literally everything that he could to try to explain it to her. And she still knew the whole time that he was a superhero, yet just didn't care, expected him to be better for her.
Yeah. And now everything's just fine. It's
everything's
go be a superhero.
Be a superhero, have fun.
And even whenever she's upset about him talking with Cecil, that in the first season, she flipped her lid anytime anything would take him away from her.
And now
She's
he's just on call all the time
Yeah.
and has to leave numerous times throughout the episode from her side. And she's totally fine with it. No freak out.
She does say one little thing about hopefully that's not the only voice you're listening to is the voice in your ear.
Right.
Something like that, right?
Yeah,
but it wasn't snarky. It wasn't. And it's not like she learned from her mistake. No.
It was a little offhanded.
She's just different.
Yeah.
Totally different. Good call, man. After that, there's a subplot throughout the whole episode of just dealing with Debbie's just hurt and little things like a mailbox and the
really good episode to find out the state of what she's in because it's very poor.
Yeah,
clearly she has not gone to therapy,
right?
And she needs some.
And the other thing is, that's part of why the episode's a little slower, is because Debbie's stuff is focused even more so than the first episode,
right? Yeah.
And it's not necessarily bad, but it just slows things down because it's also they're showing just how little things frustrate you when you're already hurting.
Yes,
because there's a mailbox that keeps opening, and then in their house there's
their cupboard keeps opening.
The cupboard,
and it just drives her crazy throughout the whole episode to the point where at the end of the episode, it pretty much just triggers a mental breakdown, and she smashes a lot of glassware in the cupboard and rips the door off of its hinges, and is just cussing at it and making a scene.
Yeah.
And it just kind of goes to show that her mental state is clearly not stable yet.
Right.
Even though she's trying so hard to keep things together, the scars of Nolan are still there.
Yeah. Dude,
and they're very apparent.
We got to do these.
Very apparent.
We got to do these episode reviews together every time because you were just piece by piece.
I just take everything in and I try to make it make sense to me.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I watch a lot of that and I'm interesting. I wonder when that's going to come back to bite us later.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Like with Donald.
Yeah. And so that's another piece that she notices that Donald is back again. And Donald's like, why did she freak out when she saw me?
Right. Yeah.
So he doesn't know.
That was really unsettling that not even Donald knows because that was the question that Cody and I had at the first episode is how and why is Donald back? We watched him die in the first season.
Yeah.
And now he's just back with seemingly no explanation. So this episode is finally starting to touch on that subject.
Yeah.
And
so what do you think? What do you think's causing it? How's he back? I have two guesses at this point.
I mean, we've seen teleportation. We've seen them totally resuscitate the immortal.
Yeah. Well,
there's all kinds of crazy technology in the show, so I don't think cloning is out of the question.
Yeah, because last time we saw him when he died, he had been grabbed by the spine.
Yeah.
By Omni-Man, and then he blew up the whole house.
Yeah, blew up the spy house
with him in it.
Yeah.
So cloning.
I think it's probably cloning.
Yeah.
And because cloning has been utilized in the show already with I can't think of the name of the brothers.
Oh, Mahler twins?
The Mahler twins. That's right. Yeah, the Mahler twins.
All the time.
Maybe they took some of that technology and utilized it so that how he makes a clone not believe that they're the clone. Maybe they kind of reverse engineered that technology to make it completely wipe the cloning process memory altogether and just make a new clone starting from a certain point in time that just takes in information from that point.
Yeah.
And when they die, it just kind of resets the process. They go back to that same point when they clone it again. And all the while, they don't know the better.
Yeah.
It's just like a blank slate every time you create a new one.
Right. Huh. So the two theories I have agree 100%. Cloning may very well be it, which would make easy sense.
Yeah, I'm eager to hear your other theory.
The other theory, I don't know why my mind went to this, but it just feels like I feel like maybe somehow it's either, if it's not cloning, connected somehow to detective, the devil or the demon detective.
Oh, Dark Blood?
Yeah.
I think is what his name is.
Maybe. It sounds
something
right.
like that. But I thought in the first season, he got banished back to hell.
He did. And just something about souls and maybe somehow retrieving Donald back from from hell or something. I don't know. It sounds completely silly. It has no connection in here. It's totally a guess.
But it could be possible.
The cloning thing makes way more sense. But it just, for some reason, that was the first thing that popped in my head. And I was like, that doesn't make sense as much as cloning them. But I don't know. It's just super weird.
Yeah. And so clearly Donald is having doubts on his existence because I think he knows that something's up.
Yeah.
Because he sees that Debbie is clearly in shock that she recognizes that like he's not supposed to be alive.
Yeah.
And he catches on to that. And then whenever he asks Cecil about it, Cecil brushes him off. And then he walks out of the room kind of like questioning. Right. And Cecil gives him a really ugly look as he closes the door. Like, really sinister.
Like he's starting to figure something out.
Right. He's like I'm going to keep my eye on you.
So I'm afraid, and this is just a prediction, that Donald is somehow going to become a supervillain when he figures out what happened to him.
Yeah.
Like whatever he is. Just with how Cecil's acting. And super weird.
Or I think that Cecil might be one of the main antagonists of the show.
I mean,
that is kind of just hiding in plain sight. Because I mean, he does kind of seem like the neutral character in this because he's kind of taking elements from both sides and just using it for humanity's gain. Yeah. But at the same time, it feels like he is too precautionary at sometimes.
Right. And he works for the government.
Right.
So who knows what actually is told to him also of what he has to do.
Exactly. Who knows what 3-letter organizations are, down his, breathing down his neck.
Yeah. Okay. So the second mission that Mark goes on here, so we can keep moving here because we could talk about that one. We're just speculation, but there's so much there.
There is so much.
The second mission, right, is to go find the new Darkwing or whatever his name is.
Yeah, Darkwing. They had a bunch of sightings of Darkwing in that like midnight city, whatever it was.
Yeah,
called.
And apparently it was just a whole city that's been cursed.
It's a whole city that's been cursed since 2002. I don't know what year it is in the actual show. Yeah, but they're just like, it's pretty much just a cesspool of a city. It's been cursed, and there's like nothing we do about it. It's just cursed.
It's like it exists at the midnight.
Right.
All the time.
It's perpetual darkness. It's like always like windy and stuff like that. It's just
And the first thing Invincible does when he encounters
it's kind of funny because I think it's funny how in like Batman movies, like it is constantly raining, like always raining. It's kind of like that. Like it's always dark, it's always windy. Yeah. And nothing changes about it. I just thought that was kind of a funny concept that they touched on is like, it's just cursed. It's constantly like this all the time. And that's the explanation for it.
Yeah. And Mark plays around for a second, flying in and out, going cool. And Cecil's just like somehow knows exactly what he's doing. He stop being a tourist.
Yeah, let me know when you're done playing tourist.
And so then he gets into this fight with this new Darkwing. Come to find out it's
Darkwing's assistant.
Yeah, but then Mark's like, so his sidekick? And he goes, no, that's degrading.
We don't use that term. It's degrading. I really want to... And so while like they start fighting, he starts pretty much phasing in and out of reality. Like he can he can make Mark's body phase through his at will. He goes in and out of walls, at will.
Yeah.
And during the fight, he throws Mark into this like shadow dimension.
Yeah. And so obviously this guy has powers on his own.
Yeah, he
and
does.
Darkwing, as far as we saw at the beginning of the Invincible Season 1, didn't have powers.
Yeah, he is just like Batman and just totally relies on like tools and martial arts.
So Darkwing's sidekick was way more powerful as far as
if he's able to phase in and out of reality and he has his own pocket dimension.
Yeah. Like, what in the world?
Like, what?
So basically, you're just training this guy to use like your gadgets and stuff, but he's also got this whole extra layer of
stuff.
Shadow dimension is what you call it. Like, holy cow.
And there's also like sentient beings in the shadow dimension. Like he notes that there are things living in here and they are very hungry to the point where even he doesn't stay in that dimension very long because of how dangerous it is.
Yeah.
So it makes me like wonder how many other people he's thrown in that dimension to kind of like get rid of.
Because his whole plan was to leave
Mark in there.
In it.
And then Mark grabs him. But I don't understand why he didn't just phase out of Mark's hand.
I don't know.
Because, like, he caught him.
I'd have to rewatch it to see him phasing through. Because
Mark tried to punch him, and his fist went, like, right through his body. And, like, it came back out, and Mark was confused.
Weird.
So Mark grabs him by the wrist and forces him to let him out of that dimension.
Yeah. Maybe while he's in the shadow dimension, he can't phase in that same way.
Maybe, yeah.
Because it's different. I don't know.
He was also sticking, like, half of his body and head through it. So, like, he was also, like, mid-portal. Yeah. So maybe that's why. Because he was already phasing.
Yeah. Huh.
So maybe that's where that power comes from?
Maybe. It was really cool, but wow.
Like how in Doctor Strange, like, the Ancient One, right? Draws her power from, like, the dark dimension.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yep, good catch there, man.
Kind of the same thing.
So another thing that's also happening in behind the scenes of this too. There's like Debbie's plot, Mark's plot, and his friends, right? Because they're celebrating also. Oh, and then there's Adam Eve plot, and then there's the Guardians of the Globe. So Adam Eve's plot is dealing with family issues, and because they're celebrating after graduating, and then she goes home, and also helps in Chicago repairing stuff, but her dad's still a jerk. And that's also the problem of why Amber's so frustrating in this, changing personality so drastically, because her dad is...
her dad has not changed at all.
He's still that person. And
I mean, like, to be fair, like...
Should be.
In, like, the first season, there wasn't much resolution concerning that. So it kind of makes sense that he's still a jerk.
Right.
But at the same time, there was resolution with Mark and Amber, but not that much.
Yeah, not that would just change your personality.
Like everything is totally hunky dory. No, there are some things that still needed to be addressed.
Yeah. So Adam Eve's mom is upset because they have very little, and Eve's ready and willing to help, but she's upset because her husband doesn't want any of this because he is so anti-superhero about everything, and he walks in and he's wearing what?
A Burger Mart outfit.
Yeah.
He's working a minimum wage job to support the house, and I think he is just pretty much just growing entirely apathetic towards superheroes.
Yeah.
Because he notes that, like after Chicago, like, you guys like fly away to wherever you guys go, and you leave the rest of us behind without asking, what can I do to help?
Yeah.
Without like giving any resolution. So I can understand that coming from like the human perspective.
Yeah.
For sure.
And then go ahead.
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're good.
Eve fills their whole fridge with food and puts food on the table and everything, and even gives her dad like an apple and changes it to a gold, like a 24 karat gold apple, and tells him to sell it because she wants to help her family. But her dad's ego is so huge, and his apathy towards superheroes is so huge that he just fully rejects it, throws everything in the trash, and pretty much just tells Adam Eve, like, oh, I forgot the newspaper.
Because that was the second time she shows back.
Yeah, that was the second time she shows up. All the food that she gave them originally has been thrown away.
Yeah.
Her dad is pretty much more angry than when we first saw him.
And why is he angry?
Because of a newspaper that he got. And
so real quick, Adam Eve had been in Chicago to repair stuff and created a park, and it was beautiful.
Yeah, it was
beautiful, amazing to help this family in the area. And what's in the newspaper?
All of it collapsed because none of it was to code. Which is funny because the construction worker earlier in the episode commented that. Like, how do I know any of what she's built is up to code?
The building was fine. It was the park collapsed because there was a sinkhole.
No, the building collapsed too.
Did the building collapse too?
Because she added more weight to the building, and the city would not build there because the ground was unstable, and so all of it collapsed, and people nearly died. And like her dad was like, "It's a miracle nobody died." Like, maybe you should like pay more attention before you swoop in trying to help, because you don't know if you could actually be making things worse.
And he actually has a good point there, but he says it in a terrible way.
Right. He voices it so horribly because his ego is just so massive that,
Yeah.
He's so big for his britches in this moment.
It's so interesting how like we're so upset over Amber in the first season, and him like we were always upset about him too in a way, but also like not surprised. Like he was a very real life character.
Yeah, no, he's very down to earth in how I think someone would react to this kind of situation. Because I mean, like, not everybody is going to have a superhuman kid, and if you've seen the Adam Eve episode, like you follow that, like her growing up and her dad reacting to her, becoming more and more invested with her powers to the point that she becomes aware of them and becomes in control of them. And honestly, I feel like he is pretty upset that he is losing control over his daughter because his daughter now has control over herself.
Yeah. And there's also a point in the Adam Eve episode where he was going, she's just weird.
Yeah.
Like he's just so set in his ways and
very close-minded.
Yeah, and it's fascinating to watch the work through for him, and you feel this tragic backstory for Adam Eve. It's interesting that I don't have as much animosity for him as I do for Amber, and I think it's just because he's very honest and upfront about what he is. He's terrible,
right?
But he's very honest and upfront about it, whereas Amber was not honest about who she was.
Very indirect.
Yeah, very sneaky about it. Very good. Yeah, indirect. Very interesting because he's a terrible person.
Yeah,
but you know what you're getting, and it's a very sad story. But you also go, maybe someday he will see how amazing his daughter truly is.
I hope so.
Very interesting there. So
but maybe he's viewing it as like a personal attack to try and one up him. By like showing up to his house and filling the house with like, food and everything. He calls it fake. Like he's like, we don't want your fake food or your fake gold or any of that. Like he's just totally outright denying his daughter.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Well, and to him, it's interesting because he's looking at it and going, what effort was put in that? Well, you just thought it and changed it, and it's here, and it looks effortless. But if you watch Adam Eve episode, it's effortless because of the practice she's put in and the time of studying materials.
Exactly.
So she makes it look really easy.
Right.
But her dad just doesn't understand in any way what his daughter really is at all. And it's sad. It's so tragic. Very, very interesting dynamic. True. I can't wait to see more of the family because it's always fascinating to delve into that.
I hope like they can get resolution at some point.
Yeah,
for
sure. And I'll be honest, I won't be shocked if
how's it going?
I won't be shocked if Adam Eve's mom leaves her dad. I really won't. I'm shocked it hasn't happened yet. But
it seems like they're on the verge of that.
Yeah. So the next subplot thing going on, there's a whole other subplot too. There's so many subplots in the show.
Yeah.
So the Guardians of the Globe are sent to deal with Lizard Gang. Is that what they are?
Lizard League.
Lizard League. Thank you. So what's your thoughts on the Guardians of the Globe at this point?
I honestly, the state that they're in is just pretty unknown. Honestly, like we don't really get a lot on them. They seem like they're sort of getting better, but at the same time, it feels like they're falling apart because of the Immortal. It looks like he's pushing them like really, really hard, and it's starting to get to them. But there's also intrapersonal relationships within the team that are starting to break apart as well, which could, further interfere with their performance.
Right. So in the Lizard League fight, very interesting, like, we don't know entirely what the two newer characters. Obviously, season 1 did have the one guy that didn't have powers that lost them, and now he's got powers back that are electricity based. We think, but we've not seen them.
Yeah, no, we haven't.
And I don't understand what he is. And then the bulletproof guy or whatever his name is.
That's literally his name is Bulletproof.
What's he do? Well, apparently he flies.
Yeah, he flies, and I guess he's bulletproof.
Yeah, but show us more of him. I want to know.
Yeah.
But the weird interaction was Rex, after training is all beat up, and then he hears a shower going, and we'll try to be kind of
family friendly.
Yeah, with this, because it's an awkward scene, but it's kind of this fascinating,
awkward,
bizarre situation because he hears some awkward noises, goes to investigate because he recognizes duplicate.
Mm-hmm.
Duplicates in the shower with
the Immortal.
Which they just look so different in age, and obviously Immortal is immortal, but he looks like
he's thousands of years old,
50-year-old man at least,
right?
And Duplicate looks like maybe
barely
in their
of
20s.
age. Right, barely of age.
It's just weird.
It's very bizarre. And Rex makes a comment that the Immortal told them to not have anything like of those kind of relationships on the team.
Yeah.
But he is just openly embracing hypocrisy and having that relationship with Duplicate.
Yeah.
It's very off-putting. Why is this happening? What's the significance behind this?
Yeah, and Immortal's just like, it's none of your concern.
Right, it's none of your concern. I'm the team leader. I get to do what I want.
It's like, okay, so you're not any better than what you're saying.
Right. It's like, I thought you were supposed to have the moral high ground.
Yeah. Just Guardians are in a weird spot.
I don't really know what's gonna happen with them.
Yeah. And so they meet a new superhero, and he looks to be a stretchy powered guy, but the whole episode behind the scenes, I can't remember what he said his name was.
I can't remember what his name was either.
But he's a Martian.
Yes.
And he was from season 1. And confession is, I totally thought in season 1 that I didn't even think about necessarily that it was a Martian. I thought for some reason it was just one of the
Sequids.
The Sequids, the brains on little tentacles. And it makes way more sense that it was obviously a Martian because
that's what I originally thought at first too.
Yeah.
But yeah, in season 1, the Martian takes the form of the astronaut and is on the spaceship with them, and the American flag on his uniform is upside down, and then it morphs into the correct placing.
Yeah.
Or placement.
It was so obvious that it was a Martian.
Yeah.
And I don't know why it didn't.
It didn't click with me either. But then we see the astronaut that was left behind is now being used as a host for the Sequids and is going to pretty much just tear apart Mars.
Yeah. So it raises a lot of questions. Like, one, that would mean that the Martian would have had to have seen the astronaut.
Yes.
And knocked him out or done something to him potentially to take his place.
Right. And leave him there.
Then the other question is, does this Martian actually have a Sequid on him?
Yeah,
somewhere?
That's true.
He's not acting like he has a Sequid. He's acting very much under his own control.
Yeah.
He's goofy as all get out. I mean,
he's very confused.
He's stupid.
Extremely, yes. He has no idea of any part of human mannerisms.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just eating raw frozen pizza. It's very strange.
It was so funny. And so, yeah, he gets laid off from the astronaut program because
he's acting so crazy that they had to give him a mental health break because he's just so loony. And I forgot what they said, but they were on to, I think they were on to him. Like, not him specifically, but they were on to something that, like, something went up, like something's up with the Mars mission and something isn't exactly as it seems and we're trying to figure something out. I'll have to go back and watch it because I didn't really fully catch what they said, but
that's okay. I mean, that was
pretty much the gist. It's like, that's also like you said, it's the problem. We're given so much information to process with this episode. It's honestly like you're going to have to just go back and watch it just to reference what you're even thinking about.
It's going to be a 2-watcher pretty easily.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he disguises himself after seeing a commercial of Martian Man. Was that his name?
Yeah, Martian Man.
And going, I could be a superhero too. And then he pretends like he's a human with stretchy powers, which is kind of
shape-shifting powers.
Yeah. That's what I mean by the stretchy.
Yeah.
So he can totally just do whatever and say, yeah. And it's hilarious because he just makes up the goofiest story of that he's a normal human, and it's dumb. And I'm like,
yes, I was born a human baby on this planet Earth. It's like,
I really hope that
no human ever says that.
Yeah, the Immortal did not say anything, but he just kind of looked funnily at the team, and I'm like, I just hope the next episode he just goes, "You're full of crap."
Right. Like you're, because the Immortal was with Martian Man.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to notice that, like, there's some things connecting, and he's going to be like, what's up with you? Why are you here?
Right.
What's your agenda?
Right. So it's just kind of a funny thing. He'll be interesting to see, like, what's going on there, if he has a Sequid on him or something, or if he's just a goofy dude, or did he do something to that astronaut to take his place? So we do get a little scene about Mars, and it's all going to crap, and it's falling apart, being attacked.
Yeah.
So the last big thing for Mark,
we got to touch on these two.
Yeah, we haven't even gotten to the after credits scene with this.
Did we even touch on the underwater scene?
No, because that's what I was just about to say.
Okay,
the last thing with Mark, because that's just it. Like, this is the problem with this episode, and that's why I was going more to a 7. There's so much, and it's all interesting, but it's just a lot.
It's a lot, because I know that, for those of you who don't know, they are doing 4 episodes currently, and then in the spring they're releasing the other 4 episodes. So they're not doing a continuous season. Right. They're going to split it up. Right. So I honestly think they're just trying to feed us as much as they can for now, while we have to wait again during that hiatus.
Yeah. Man. And so, okay, this whole thing was Cecil takes him to go meet the fish people underneath in Atlantis because Omni-Man killed their king, who was actually the fish guy on the thing, which it didn't really give an indication in the first season that he was the king, because he was just off on his own.
Yeah. They said that Aquarius was the king of Atlantis. Yeah. And so pretty much that left his wife to rule the kingdom while he was gone playing dress up.
Yeah, it was like a decade or something.
Right.
Which is hilarious. So that scene where we saw him in the season 1 where he's just sitting on like a kind of throne, or at least a seat, but he was just alone. He's literally like exiled himself on purpose.
Pretty much.
Really weird.
That is really strange. So Cecil is under the impression that Mark now has to, like, in order to atone for his father's crimes of killing the king, he now has to marry the widow.
I thought it was supposed to you had to marry the daughter, but maybe I missed that.
You have to marry the widow.
Okay.
So you have to marry the queen.
Yeah, so I totally got confused at that point, because I thought, oh, Mark's just confused. Apparently not.
Right. So the queen pretty much is just like, oh, yeah, no. We totally changed that rule, and that's totally not what you're here for at all. And so totally going backwards on the deal that they made.
And what's the actual new rule that's in place?
Trial by combat.
Yeah, totally updated and modern, right? Like,
I love how she notes that, like, that rule is barbaric, yet they sent him to trial by combat. Yeah. If that's not even more barbaric.
But it's funny to think about it, because she says it's barbaric as the queen, who would have had to have married him. Yeah. So she's going, nope, that's barbaric. Yeah, trial by combat, though. It's
like, oh, no. Letting you fight this enormous sea monster. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But what was the sound that every time the sea monster made whenever he squeezed the little thing, just like the glowfish on the bottom of the ocean floor?
It was a squeaky toy.
Yeah, straight up squeaky toy, which was so derpy and silly, but it was hilarious.
But honestly, I think that I don't even know what to call it. Like, the sonic wave that the monster emits, like, really messes with Mark. Like, it's almost incapacitating. And yes, you want to
go ahead.
Cecil later in the episode notices that this monster's sonic, like, screech, like, seriously hinders Mark, and he gets a team of researchers to go, like, kind of dive in on that sound, probably as a
deterrent against Mark.
Yeah, deterrent. Yep.
It's crazy, because that's what Cecil's doing, is layers upon layers of things. Like we saw in season 1, he always had plans.
Contingency plan.
Yeah.
There you go.
So then Mark fights this thing. Cecil ends up helping with some missiles, and Mark...
Helping.
Yeah.
One of the missiles hits a chain that was holding the monster back, and it starts killing citizens of Atlantis. Yep. Mark was ordered to leave, but pretty much has a awesome character development moment. It says, I'm not my father. That's why I'm not leaving, and I'm going to go back and help them. So he kills the monster and saves all the people of Atlantis.
Well, didn't kill it, though.
You know, he didn't.
Did we ever see it?
No, we didn't see it.
It goes down a hole and grabs him, but we don't see anything past that except Mark getting back up out of the ocean and spitting up goo.
Yeah.
So
what happened down there?
Maybe that monster, just like the other monster from season 1, is going to be back 4 episodes from now.
Yeah. And, I forgot about that. They kept that one.
Yeah, the plant tentacle.
That kaiju.
Thing. Yeah.
In containment, and they totally released it on Nolan.
Yeah. So really interesting there. The fish people call it all good because save the queen from this monster that they let loose on Mark.
Right. It's like, we're good now.
Yeah. The last big thing, obviously, Debbie's at the very end and has a breakdown, and Mark hugs with her. and whatnot. But then this scene up here in our other image is from another universe. I'm guessing it's the one that the guy that can teleport between universes, one of his people obviously was from, but it was that one that we saw get teleported right before he got taken out by Mark and his dad, Omni-Man. And apparently Omni-Man now is dead in that universe. And
they ambushed him with like a certain type of bomb.
Yeah.
And got him. I forget what they called it. They get quantum bomb, something like that. So it just sounds like it's really crazy. And most of Europe. It's
wild.
So and now they have Mark in containment because they pretty much just wore him down so much that whenever he finally went to sleep is when they pretty much just snatched him and put him in this containment.
But then it sounded like Mark thought that the guy that can teleport was promising to help him in some way as he left.
Yes.
And then we also get to see Cecil and Donald gender swapped.
Yeah. Which was very funny.
It was super awkwardly
Which
funny.
Is even more hilarious because they look like exactly like themselves, just with female hair.
Yeah.
That's literally the only change that's made.
It was so bad, but it's so good.
It's just something. It's just like, all right.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing, like, setting up for stuff, which you're like, what is the teleport guy going to do? And we already knew that from the first episode. Like, this is a serious threat. A guy that can travel between multiverses and get whoever he wants to fight for him and to do things for him.
That's extremely dangerous.
That's insane. Yeah. And then the fact that he didn't just kill this Mark. I'm a little confused about that. And
I think he left him there for a reason.
Yeah. But it's like, why? What's the purpose? What's going on? And it almost seemed like Mark was actually he was like, I just got tired. I got wore down when I was asleep.
He doesn't say anything about like losing his powers or anything. Yeah. He's still a Viltrumite.
Yeah. And it's like, did you really? Or are you just playing possum because you're waiting for the right opportunity to crush everything?
Right. It looks like a pretty hefty security system they got him locked up in.
It may be.
It looks like it's extremely restraining.
Yeah. So, okay. I think we've hit everything. There's a lot. That's the thing. Yeah. This episode is massive.
Like, we don't know if we hit everything because there's that much stuff in it.
But you've remembered key details that are really important, and I thank you for that, Will. Like, that's huge.
For sure.
Yeah, overall, again, I still stick with the 7. Like, it's not a bad episode by any means, but it's just slower. But it's setting up so much good stuff.
Yeah, I'm actually changing my answer down to a 7 as well.
Okay.
Just simply for the fact that, like, I love it. I love all the content that we get. We were eating really well with this episode, but honestly, it was just we're eating too much. Like, we just got to,
It's going to the buffet.
Right. We got to slow down on the information just a little bit so that we can actually have a coherent idea of what's going on.
Absolutely.
Instead of just pretty much like info dumping and saying, okay, next episode coming soon. Have fun with this information.
Yeah. And it's a lot of world building right now. And that can be really good.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to go back and watch this a second time just to make sure I pick up things that I originally didn't because it's so much.
Right. And I have a sneaking suspicion when you do that, you're going to be calling me going, hey,
look at this. All right.
Oh, yeah. We did forget a scene.
What?
The Lizard League scene at the end as well.
Oh.
Because somehow they just make it out of the fight with the Guardians.
Yeah.
They make it back home somehow. And their people are bleeding and stuff, but they make it back home.
Yeah.
Are the Guardians that bad? Like, what is...
That's what I'm saying. The state of the Guardians of the Globe is very poor.
Yeah. And then the Serpent...
They even take a note of that. They're saying if they can't beat the Lizard League, then they really are that bad.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Lizard League is not beaten. They still are going alive and well. Yeah. And then the Lizard King, I'm pretty sure.
Which was a little kid in the Adam Eve episode that was...
Well, I think that was the Lizard Prince.
Well, yeah, but that was him.
Oh, that was?
I think that was him as a little kid because Adam Eve was a little kid at that point.
But like...
So he grows up and then at that scene shoots the one that's claiming leadership right in the head and takes his place. I think that's him. They look just like him.
Yeah, because it was pretty much like him as a teenager, which makes sense because he was a little kid. He was a little kid at the same time Adam Eve was a little kid, sort of. Like maybe just a few years ahead because Adam Eve was still an infant at this point.
Right.
I'm pretty sure.
And it's one of those groups like, do you really care about the Lizard League? No. but it's funny.
But yeah, it is a subplot. It's put in the show for a reason.
Yeah.
I don't think it's just meaningless filler. Like, I think that it definitely means something. And
but the fact that all those characters for the Lizard League were used in the Adam Eve episode, and including that the Lizard King's mom was like leading the group at that point.
Yeah.
And he was just a little kid with her. And we didn't, I can't remember what happens at that point in this show, but we just happened to have it replay and then show that. I was like, oh, yeah, okay, good call, Will.
Yeah,
like, you knew.
Yeah, it was at the very beginning of the Adam Eve episode when they were breaking into that facility for some kind of serum, is what they said. But then the Guardians of the Globe show up and they're like, oh, so something is like really high value here. They're going to send the Guardians of the Globe to protect it.
And the Lizard League.
Yeah, the Lizard League.
I love it. I love that. It's like... There's a dumb Marvel team that's like that. What are they called? But they're like 4 snake-powered villains, and they're so stupid. I can't remember their name, but it's hilarious. Like,
it's not.
I have a comic where Tony fights them in a junkyard without his suit and then kicks their butts. And I mean,
without a suit, even.
Yeah, he just grabs stuff and just wallops. Something like, yeah, that's right.
Oh my god.
But that's what they remind me of. It's so funny because really this show and this comic book series is like taking cues from Marvel and DC and then, shifting pieces of it. And I love that.
Yeah, because Darkwing is just totally great value Batman.
And now
and Red Rush was great value The Flash.
Great value. At least it's not the Save brand.
Yeah.
That's
Lizard League is the Save brand.
The same brand of the Great Value brand. Oh, man.
Oh, my gosh.
Woo! Okay. Well, I think we had more fun talking through this episode than necessarily the episode, even though it was a good episode, just not a lot of action all the time.
Yes.
But, Will, thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
This was an absolute joy to talk through with you. And just
this was fun.
These pieces.
It's a lot. It's so much.
Yeah.
It's too much for one night.
Yeah,
it really is.
It is. We only watched one episode, but I feel like we just went through.
I feel like I just watched 3.
Yeah.
It is so much information. I'm like, I gotta take a break.
And even our video of this is big because there's just a lot here. But I've been Cody.
50 minutes runtime.
Grief. I've been Cody from the Keepers of Nerddom. Let us know in the comments below what you think of episode 2 of season 2 of Invincible, and like, share, and subscribe. And again, thank you, Will, for joining
me, course.
And I hope we can do this again because this was a lot of fun
talking
with you because you remember more stuff than I do.
Yeah, and I have to remember because I have like raging ADHD. So if I don't ingrain this stuff in my mind, I'm gonna forget it when it comes back later. I'm gonna be like, what? And then now I remember. Yeah, just like with like the Lizard League and stuff, like at the Adam Eve episode, like I would have not remembered that.
I'm glad that popped back
and then
up.
It just right back in my brain all of a sudden.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, take care, y'all, and go watch Invincible season 2.
Yeah.
Peace out.